Hello. This is an introduction to using Purescript, and we're gonna use the Intellij plugin for Purescript using WebStorm. Today, the plugin works for many different things, and this is like a Kickstarter how to get starting working with Purescript using these tools. The first thing we need to do is to npm install some stuff. I already have them installed, so I'm just gonna upgrade them. Uh, and the tools that you generally have or use when you're doing Purescript is Purescript. This will install the compiler. You also want to have Spargo, which is kind of the package manager and a little bit of a build tool, something like that. And then you also want to have tidy, Purescript, sorry, which is a tidy upper, as it says. It's a formatter, helps you formatting the files to be more consistent. So we're going to hit there and see what it does. It updates some things here. And after you've done that, we're going to init the Spargo project by running Spargo init. And you can see here to the top left that we have the directory is called fizz. And if I do Spargo init, it will create some new files. I'll also show you, if we go to plugins, the version of Purescript plugin we're using currently is 0.73.3, and there's not always, but almost every week updates. I think it's over 160 releases so far. And this is just the lower bound of what you can do with this plugin, but it's a good start. It needs some more documentation for what it actually can do, and this video is part of that process. But yeah, things will probably change. So if there's many numbers from here, you might have a different experience, hopefully a better one. Okay, so we have created a project, and what it creates are this source folder and this test folder. It also creates a git ignore files that ignore some stuff, which is nice. I'm just gonna also add the idea folder here. I don't find this super necessary, but it's better to ignore too much in that folder than too little, is my experience. But the folder should have a git ignore of its own if it knows that it's in Git. We aren't in Git, so this is actually being less added here now. But if we were in Git, it should have ignore folder ignoring the problematic parts, but you never know. Then we have this REPL file, which basically is what is run if you start the REPL. We're not going to use the REPL today, but good to know that this is basically the template of what will be run if you start the REPL every time. The package doll file includes a lot of documentation of how it works, but basically it's describing where it finds packages. And you can see here that it has this version with a date. So this is where these libraries we will use comes from, and you can change it here. So if you want to have some packages not in the package set, you can add it here, or if you want to have a different version than the one that is in the package set, you can change that. And then we have the Spargo doll file, which is governed by Spargo and will, in the next version of Spargo, I understood, be changed to a YAML file because it's easier to work with if you're not using Haskell tooling. The Spargo that I'm using here, which will be the old one, is written in Haskell, if I understand it. The new one will be written in Purescript itself. So we'll see what that looks like. But you can see here that it states dependencies, project name. I'll just keep it my project, even though we could change it to something else. Where it finds packages, so it's just reference to this file, and where you have sources for your project. It's good to know that if you create a packet out of this project, so you publish it through Spargo, it's only the source directory currently, at least, that will be pushed. So everything you put in any other sources here will not be accessible from the packet, which means that it's only in the source folder you need to make sure that your libraries are unique. In the other ones, your module names can be different. I'm going into details here. Let's just walk more directly into what we're doing here. We can see that the plugin have figured out that these libraries exist, and you can see uh, their their version here. And soon, hopefully, it will also show the source. But we have actually not installed these. This is just the version that will be installed, because Spargo installs stuff when you start to run stuff. So let's run some things. We have some red here because, as said before, they don't exist on disk yet. But if we run here, it will start, and you can see that we get this past the dish from Spargo, and it has now compiled, and we have these red things removed. We can see here at the bottom that it's running the compile server, which also have some other helping tools from Spargo and not Spargo, sorry, from the compiler, and it's working quite well. But as soon as you see Purs IDE errors, it's that program that have showed those things. Okay, so if you don't know about FizzBuzz, FizzBuzz is this like code example that you can write to train some ideas, or just like a good exercise. And the backstory is that it was common, and I actually did this when I was younger in school, to learn divisibility, to have a class, and you say, okay, the teacher point at each person in class in order, and they say 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. So like pointing at Jonathan and he says 1, and then pointing at Sarah and she says 2, and so on and so forth. And making it harder when the people in class can count. So when you get a little bit older, what you do is that you say, okay, on every thing that is divisible by 3, you don't say 3 or 6 or 9, you say fizz. So 1, 2, fizz, and 4 and 5 and fizz. And when you've learned divisible by 3, we can start saying, okay, but divisible by 5, and that's buzz instead. And then it becomes 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, fizz, and so on. And then what happens when we come to 15? So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, fizz, 9, buzz, it's 10, 11, 12 is again, right? That's the issue. See, this is harder than it looks like. Okay, 13, 14, and then fizz, buzz, right? So when both are true, you say them in order. You can make this exercise harder, right? You can add 7, which is another prime. So you go by prime numbers, skipping 2. And if you define 1 as prime, skip that as 1. Well, and so on. So we're going to first just write a short program here that's going to print out all the numbers from 1 to 100. And then we're going to add, and we're going to verify. We don't going to write tests today. We're going to just verify it manually. It's not that hard. Let's do that. So we're going to use a for loop, which looks a little bit similar but different in Purescript, right? So let's see if I remember correctly here. So I hit the autocomplete twice, and now I get the symbols for downloading. So in the beginning, you don't have all the features like the standard module set in Purescript is quite small, so you will need to install modules. And so I'm gonna install 4 here from foldable traversable, and I hope this is the right one. I never remember if it's the one with the underscore, because there's also a underscore version that does uh, probably what we want here. Okay, so let's take this one instead. So install that one, remove this one, and we want to go through numbers 1 to 100. So this just generates all the numbers, and um, we don't have support for auto importing uh, uh, um, operators yet from packages that is not installed. So let's install arrays by hand here. So I'm going to do spargo install arrays. So I hit control twice, and then I get this run everything, which is a easy way to get hold of kind of the command line. It's not really a command line, it's a little bit smarter, but you know, it's close to that. Mm. Um, so now we can get it here. And then we're gonna take a, get this number. And what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a function. So what for does is it takes a collection and then it uh, gives that collection, every item in that, to a function. So it's like for each in JavaScript or something like that. And the do just means that we now have a context where we can do multiple calculations that depend on each other, like statements. Um, and it's a little bit um, more than we need, maybe, but because we only gonna have one real statement, which is log, right? So let's log n here, and we will see quite quickly when we start running this that we both will get the error here, but we'll also get the error here as soon as all these things are installed. That the type here is wrong. So log only knows how to log strings, but we have an integer here. So let's do a new variable here with a let expression, and we can say n as string, or let's do underscore here as string, and we do this by doing show. Show is a operator that takes any value that has implemented showable, which is many but not all values in Purescript, and gives it a string representation. And for numbers, this is just a string with a number in it. So n as string, we have it there. And now if we run this, you can also run it with shortcut, but I'm gonna do it here. We see that we get all these. So this show is basically doing one of the 3 things we want to do, right? Or 4, depending on how you look at it. So when it's a normal number, we just want to make it a string. So I'm gonna extract this. Okay, let's inline that like so, because now we know basically what it does. And interesting. So I was trying to extract it. Now it works. So I don't know what happened there, but if I selected it, I could extract it. I got this weird error that show can't be reached from top level, but apparently when I select it, it works. So there are some things that could need some work in the plugin, but it works. Okay, so let's say fizz buzz, and it's show here, and it takes no arguments. It looks like, but it actually takes an argument. It's just that it's hidden. So let's add that. So in Purescript, you can do .free notation, which basically means you can combine functions without sending their arguments if they basically fit together like Lego blocks. And here, uh, since both of them took the same argument, you can just remove the argument. It's a little bit more complicated than that when you get into like the theory, but in practice, that's what it is. And I'm going to save here, and I'm going to run just to make sure that it looks about the same. And we got a warning here, which is basically this um, this expression did not have a type declaration. You can see that main have a type. That's what the type looked like, and you get the error here. And before the update that I just did, you also got a quick fix. You might even already, yeah, you have a quick fix here. So I can do that, and we can get the type in, and that's provided by the compiler server that I have running. So I just did the quick fix shortcut, which is Alt Enter, and I get this. It doesn't have nice names, and it is too generous with the type. So let's rewrite this type just a little bit. We know that the first argument, which is, so the first part here is just talking about what restrictions are on the first argument, which is A2. But we know that the first argument is actually int, right? We know that it's a integer, and then we can remove that. And now we see that we have no errors in the file, and it's easier to work with than if it was show. Okay, so if we run the code again, we see that we don't have any of the errors, and we have this list. So I'm gonna concentrate on one thing at a time. So let's write an if statement checking if n is divisible by 3. So if n is mod 3, then fizz, else show. And I'm gonna autocomplete here and see if I have something. So when you're in an autocomplete here, first, I don't know why we see this 3 times, but we do. You can do Control Q on Windows, and on Mac it's F1 to see the documentation of a line here. So and it continues when you move through it, so you can see all the things here. You can also do Control Shift I, and then you see what it looks like. And I know exactly what this error is, but whatever. So let's take this one and see if that does what it should be, and let's do 0 here. Does it need to be? Okay, cool. So it's apparently redundant because we already have it in scope from Prelude. Interesting. So no documentation. It's so weird. Let's go there and say, oh, I see. So this is the thing that the documentation here for mod um, is not on the function itself. It's on the class, but it's really easy to, go between things, even though the plugin doesn't do everything correctly. I think the right thing would be to show this documentation, but maybe next week it does. Who knows? Let's run this code again and see what changes we have. So we have fizz here, 6 looks good. Let's format this a bit, and to format a file, you do Control Alt L, and it formatted for us. That's nice. Let's do if, and we can copy this here and do like that. And we want to check 5, and we want it to be biz. Let's do it capital letters, as I did in the example as well. There's more ways than using if statements to do this check, but I'm just gonna roll with it. So we can see now that 15 becomes fizz, which is not really what we want. So let's duplicate this. There's a space there. Do 15, which is 3 times 5, is buzz. And that should be it, really. So that's the basics of doing Purescript, and it's the basic of how to navigate a Spargo project and using the Purescript plugin for Intellij. I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope that I will make more updated content like this about new features and how to do other stuff with the plugin and Purescript. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.